Want to pick some? Okay, all right. So deserving of one. I will find out if I guess believe so. All right, let's just start with Dr. Dokun Adedeji. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Morning.
And happy 2018 to you.
Happy New Year too.
Yes. Yeah, we also have Barrister Gani Fani joining us right now. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Thank you.
Good to see
Good
you.
morning and Happy New Year.
Exactly.
Yes.
Happy New Year to you. We also have other panel of discussants. Oh, yeah.
Well, judges, they'll be judging this speech, really. Come to think of
We
it.
have Alfred Kemepado, Secretary General of the Joy Youth Council Worldwide, joining us from Port Harcourt. Kemepado, Alfred, good morning. It's good to have you and Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you and all Nigerians. How are you doing?
Well, we're fine. It's a very bright skies and bright morning, I must say. And we also have from our Abuja studio, the chairman of ABDA in Abuja studio, Kabir Shitu, joining us right now. Kabir, good morning.
All right,
Okay.
we hope you can join us soon. We really do have a large panel of discussants and
Not
maybe
judges.
Who knows?
All right.
Now, the real challenge then will be where to start
Where
from.
to start from?
Yeah.
But I think let's start from the very, very beginning. Let's have an overview. President's speech, usually, when it comes to people in different parts of the country, Dr. Dokun Adedeji, I'm going to start with you on this. When it comes to people in Sokoto, for instance, people in Port Harcourt, people in Lagos, people in Otukpo, people in Maiduguri, people have different, and when the president is going to speak, they all expect something that will touch them.
Yeah.
From what you listened to this morning from the president, do you feel satisfied that the generality of Nigeria has been touched one way or the other?
Absolutely. I need to say that. I sent a message to a friend of mine who sent me the president's speech. Okay. I said, this is a fantastic panoramic view of our current realities. I mean, it's difficult to touch every segment of the society, but in general terms, these are the issues that cut across everyone, no matter where you stay. So I think the president has done very well, and he has captured for tomorrow and then political realities the things that need to be said, and I give him kudos for it. Yes, he may not have covered the nitty-gritty for each person.
Or the micro issues.
Absolutely, which cannot be covered in his speech. But in terms of general, I think he's done very well.
Okay. All right, so let me bring this to you, Barrister Gani Fani. He started with the issue of the fuel scarcity. Would you say that the president has not been in denial with this particular speech, saying, let me just quote him, that the Christmas actually was anything but merry?
Well, let me just add that this speech or broadcast is a tour de force. In the sense that it's skillfully delivered.
Absolutely.
I'm not speaking Latin. I'm speaking tour de force.
Yes.
Yes. I'm quite elated to have had the president for the first time, I must tell you, apart from 1984, because I was privileged in 1984 to be close to where he delivered his first broadcast. And I'm not talking of 1984 of George Orwell, the 1984 of Happy New Year, Happy New Government. You know. If you remember that day,
yes,
everybody was elated. That's exactly what I felt this morning when I listened to the broadcast. The president had essentially touched the humanistic aspect of him, came out this morning. People, and including me, have felt that here is a man that is so difficult to touch by way of emotion, sentiment, and all that. But this morning, the issue of the fuel scarcity made me so happy that the president can come forward and say yes, and acknowledge that Nigerians have suffered. And what I will quickly add is that we thought we had left Egypt over the issue of fuel scarcity.
Yes.
Particularly when the last quantum increment took place from 87 to 145. We thought that was going to be the end of it. Suddenly we found ourselves back in Egypt where it was business as usual. So people were frightened. The root cause of this issue must be attacked.
But are you happy that at least as of today, 1st of January, it looks like we're moving back away from Egypt?
That's what I'm saying. I said I don't want what look like spasmodic. You please them and then you come back. why people did not talk when that increment was made was the assurance that, in fact, fuel, at least payment for fuel and purchase and all that will go down. That's what we were told.
There was so much hope.
Exactly. That's why everybody just took it.
Okay.
If it's going to be 145 naira
So
per
be
liter
it.
for the first time and forever. But not that the question of people now buying it for 200 naira.
Exactly, and
People
even the
sleeping.
issue of scarcity.
Yeah.
Now let's bring in Alfred Kemepado from Port Harcourt, joining us right now. Well, Alfred, I know you listened to and maybe you watched also the president's speech this morning. How inspired are you from everything you have heard the president say this morning?
Basically, I'm also a bit impressed with the president's speech compared to the one he made on the 29th of May. This particular speech is a complete departure. It's more humane and a little bit more presidential as we had hoped and expected. But however, we cannot also say good and not point out the areas the president has also tried to pass the blame. For example, the president sympathized with Nigerians over the fuel scarcity, but you may also agree with me that there were rumors or there are unconfirmed reports that the incidences that led to this fuel scarcity had been suggested and memos had been raised to avoid it, which was not attended to. So in that stead, you begin to say, okay, the government, as much as it has presented itself as being humane, must also be a bit more responsible and up to our duties. And this has been corroborated by the recent happenings. I'm not trying to raise a topic here, but what I'm trying to say is in the recent appointments, we have heard reports from quarters that even dead people were appointed. I am saying this to say that if a government has not been so thorough that even dead people were appointed, it is also possible that that government was not thorough with the details of an impending fuel scarcity. So I'm saying that the president, instead of passing the blame, like he said in his speech, that it was Nigerians who were trying to blackmail the whole of Nigerians. No, the president should also realize and not go away with all the praises we have for him, that he made a more fantastic speech. But he needs to be more thorough. Its secretariat needs to pay more attention to details as it concerns the country. He also spoke, okay.
All right, we'll still take you up on that issue that you raised, and of course the Niger Delta cleanup, which Mr. President actually ended with. But let's bring in Kabiru Shitu, the ABDA chairman. Good morning, and it's good to have you on the first edition of the TVC Breakfast in 2018. All right, so let's start this way. What is your assessment generally of Mr. President's speech? The three gentlemen who have spoken before you seems to have given him some kind of pass mark. Where do you stand with this speech?
It's mind-boggling. It's welcome, and we are happy because he has shown to Nigerians that he cares about the welfare of the country. And he has let Nigerians know that it is not only government that will be able to provide all necessary amenities of good of life. It is another reflection that we can see that we are, as a people, punishing ourselves because people want to make money. They have to hoard fuel. At the time people are going for Christmas and New Year celebration. I think this is not only to reflect on the president's speech, but to also call on Nigerians that it is time that we are patriotic. How will you be happy because you want to make money and you hoard petroleum? You hoard, and people could not travel to anywhere. I think Nigerians should now, we have got a government that are there and are ready to work for us. But if we as a people does not comply, I think things will be getting difficult. The president also touched on an area of which I'm more happy about, infrastructural development, especially linking railway from here to Maradi, from Lagos to Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. These are mine. It makes me this morning. He has given me my New Year package because this is
a
what
very good New Year present at that.
No development.
Uh-huh.
Yes, because no development will happen without LD. But we must also caution the government that people that will take up this infrastructure, that is the engineers that will supervise it, must be punished if they cannot, if anything go wrong. And not constructing these roads, as I've earlier said. How many years will this road last? What are the materials? Because you find Kaduna, Abuja road that was just constructed when we were having problem with Nigerian airport just about a year ago. Past that road today, it seems it has not been repaired for the past 100 years. We must now look at those engineers that supervise these roads, that are going to put up these rail lines, so that they don't bring in give out dilapidated road after construction.
Very interesting point you make there, Kabiru Shitu. Let's just put you on hold because we need to put in as much points as we can within the time limit. Dokun, that's something Kebekwabu said earlier in terms of it's not enough to blame other people for whatever infractions that have happened in the system. It's important. It's even more important for government to actually take responsibility. And that maybe you want to speak to the huge emphasis that government that Buhari actually placed on the rail sector, which according to Kabiru Shitu, is a good Christmas present or New Year present for him.
Yeah, that's true. I completely agree with you that in terms of speaking to issues, one should not just blame other people, transfer the responsibility. Yeah, government has responsibility. But see, one thing that I'd like people to understand is when you speak about government responsibility, it's about policy framework and how to harness this into the execution of what is done. But the railway thing, for me, is a good thing. You see, because we find, even coming back to roads as well, alluding to roads as well, you find that when the railway system works, there'll be less pressure on the road system. Yeah. That's one. And then there's nowhere in the world that calls for efficiency that they transport fuel by tankers. It can be just contiguous spaces, you can do that. But when it's over a long space, then you use railway. So when you do that, all the diversion that happens, we go. And then so the rail brings it to where it should be, and then we have a better system. Look, the thing for me, I think the gentleman from Niger Delta said, and Kabiru said, is the people must be involved in every facet of governance. It's not just to sit down and say, oh, the government has to do this. This is yes, there's government responsibility, but what is the responsibility of the individual in the execution of the things
like
you do?
They say, it's the people that's the government anyhow. When we say government,
absolutely,
it's
because
absolutely,
ultimately they own the power.
Yeah.
Now, Gani, let me come to you on this. Talking about transport or transportation, rail and roads and all of that. Now, a lot of Nigerians have complained that there is no proper transportation policy in the country, whether it's Abuja or it is Lagos or it is Port Harcourt or Enugu or anywhere. There hasn't been a proper channeling of what transportation should really be in this country. Is that where we should even start from?
Well, this is an obvious observation. Go to any park in Lagos here and say you want to travel to anywhere in the country. You find it difficult that you want to believe that decent people in quote should not go to those parks, and it shouldn't be so. Everybody should be able to go by whichever means of transportation. So, but what we have is that all these transportation systems we have, they are not effectively managed. And that is why when we are living from here to Ibadan, even the new road that is under construction, you will see undulations.
Undulations already.
Because of what? The pressure on it. So it won't last. So as much as possible, the government, when I when I listened to all the places we want to have this rail line, and I felt elated. The only problem I have is that I've had several broadcasts in this country. I've had several promises. And that's precisely why the Nigerian, you know, that's why they don't want to believe the government any longer.
They're very skeptical sometimes.
Exactly. We have been deceived too much to the extent that...
Is it really that governments over the years have been deceiving Nigerians, or Nigerians themselves really, you know, just like Kabiru Shitu said, there is a need for Nigerians to own the system, to say, look, this is how we want it to be, set the standard so that whatever government comes in, government has no choice than to meet that standard.
The truth of the matter on that democratic system we have is that votes don't count, probably until recently. And people just don't want to be involved. So the people have not been made to own the government.
Let me just jump in, please,
Okay.
if you permit me. Driving to work this morning,
Yes.
there is a lay-by that Ambode has built around the K2 area.
Yes.
And you would expect that the downfall driver who wants to pick passengers will drive into that
Exactly.
lay-by
Yes.
and pick his passengers.
So that the
but
road will be free.
unfortunately,
They're still on the expressway.
they're still on the road. They stop on the road and pick their passengers.
You see-
And passengers too, they are willing.
Look,
To jump
And the
into
wrong
it.
thing is, you will see police officers and traffic
There.
wardens there.
Almost helpless.
Well, that is very unfortunate. I just believe that we have to give this time. What you have just mentioned in respect of road infrastructure in Lagos, particularly the laybys, because when these roads were constructed, nobody ever anticipated that there's going to be any human habitation around the places. So now we have the laybys right from here to the 3rd Mainland Bridge. And that is why if you want to drive, you can always look at your time and then you get to your destination. The truth of the matter is that the security agents need to be
On top of their game.
Yes, because what they do is that they collude with some of the drivers. They either take tips, and that is why you find them not being able to enforce it. But it's a
Look,
question
you're
of time.
itching to say
So it's-
something.
Yes.
But we have to bring in our other.
Yeah, let me go to Port Harcourt
Yeah.
first, and
Okay.
then we come back to this. Alfred, we're talking about transportation right now. The president has mentioned that there's going to be the rail project that Nigerians have been looking forward to, has been mentioned so many times, the Lagos-Calabar rail line, which will pass through so many cities before it gets to Calabar, as the case may be. From where you are in the Niger Delta, how excited are you? And if it's going to kick off, what do you think it should be like?
Basically, I'm happy to hear that. But just like one of the commentators had expressed, I hope and I pray it's not one of those political talks in a political season as this. But let us take the president for what he has said, that if these rail lines come to stream and everything is working, it's going to be fantastic for the country. But however, the most important part of it is that you may agree with me that the country, and especially the Benin-Ore road and many other roads, suffer from a whole lot of trucks and a whole lot of transportation weighing down on that road. So part of what will ameliorate these problems for the country and also excite the Niger Delta is what the president said. When seaports, like the seaport in Warri, is being constructed. And let me also quickly add that the Mr. President should not just look at the seaports like he has mentioned in Warri that is to be constructed. He should also support projects like the seaport in Agge and the LNG project coming on stream. By that I mean, when we have these various ports working around the country, you discover that goods and services, heavy goods and services, as it were, will travel less on this infrastructure and not weigh them down automatically. So the exciting part of it is the seaport, he has stated, coming up in Warri, and the one I am calling him to support in Agge, in Bayelsa State, so that different goods can begin to come to from different parts of the country, and it will be close to where these goods are expended or are being accommodated to you. So for us, that's a good one. Then, like I've said, the railway connecting the whole of the country, because you can't really talk about economic development in any society without good transportation system. You know, so if you have a perfect and a fantastic transportation system, probably even the amount of gas emission into the society will reduce. You go to Europe, there are many people who don't own cars because of the fantastic transportation system they have.
Very
It has a
true.
way of reducing emission and reducing the kind of carbon
Carbon
emission
footprint and all that,
related
yeah.
diseases. So that's a fantastic one. But what we will tell the president is that we are watching to ensure that it is not a political statement in a political season as this, that we are going to see him walk the talk. And if he walks the talks, come on, we all want Nigeria to succeed. So we
All
sit
right.
down and they look.
Okay, let me bring in Kabiru Shitu. I'm still itching to ask you, Kemekwabo, the issue of the Niger Delta cleanup. But Kabiru Shitu, President Muhammadu Buhari did not fail to touch on the fact that, yes, the political season is right around the corner and has spoken to politicians like yourself to put a hold on using the ethnic or playing the ethnic religious card that is not doing Nigeria any good when it comes to political development. What do you have to say about that one?
If you, in my subsequent former speech, I've been telling Nigerians that ethnicity takes us nowhere and religious take us nowhere. We have a country that it is for us all, and we must join hands to create a Nigerian that will work for all of us. If we don't join hands to create Nigerian that will work for us, and we allow Nigerians to get to a bad situation, God forbid, where can I go? Where can you go? When we are running towards Europe, we will not remember that we are either Yoruba, Igbo, or Hausa any longer. What we'll be thinking is survival. How do you survive when you did not put your own house in good order? What the president has said is that politics must be taken out from nation building. And the nation building, and that is why we must also have continuity of government policies, like the rail, the road, the waterway that they are going to do now. Will there be continuity if any other government come? The answer to Nigerian is that no. Why? Because some people want to make money. And we should also note that we have seen what is happening today in Iraq. We've seen what has happened in Libya. We are seeing what is happening in Aleppo, Syria. This should be a lesson to us. We should also now see what has happened in Rwanda. Today, Rwanda are better than us after several years of civil war. We have also witnessed civil war. Hate speech, religious bigot, order is always create this divisive that lead to crisis and later to war. Who suffers it? Myself, yourself, the people, the downtrodden. Even if you have billions of dollars and you fly out of Nigeria, wherever country you go and reside, you are a third class, not even second class citizen. And even now that the world has come a global village, Nigerians should now start thinking of how do we use political speech to bring us to develop the country dilapidated infrastructures. How do, like we have been saying, maybe the president had us when we said, look at the rail lines, look at our roads. Now we are saying again, in constructing these infrastructures, people must be held responsible. And not constructing this infrastructure.
All right,
also
Kabiru.
look at how you are going to now sustain and continue the development.
All right, Kabiru,
Therefore,
let me put you on hold there, Kabiru.
Divide country.
Yes, let me put you on hold briefly so we can also touch other issues. Now, Doko, let me come to you on this. The president said 7,000 megawatts is generated already, and about 5,155 megawatts has been distributed so far.
And the highest, the highest industry, according
so
to
far,
Mr. President.
And then he also said that the TCN has now the capacity to actually distribute 7,000 megawatts. Now, from the power infrastructure we have in this country, which the Minister of Power has said, well, we need to upgrade the power infrastructure in this country, if actually the 7,000 is sent into the prevailing infrastructure
for distribution,
is it likely to stand?
You see, the thing about this, I was discussing with a friend of mine who has a bit of knowledge on this. You know, the too many things that we eventually come to is corruption and the people. We can do these things if we choose to do them. But the thing is, people always find an opportunistic way of breaching the system for their own personal interest and gain, which is contrary to what a nationalistic view should be. The thing is, I know that we regenerate and then harness all this, and then we can distribute. If we then look at the infrastructure that is there and then the decay, I mean, I know one of the things also against the power issue is the fact that any power that is generated must be sent to the national grid before it is distributed.
Exactly.
So that's the challenge. Until a time that we can segment the nation.
Decentralize
it, because Lagos uses more power than maybe Kebbi and
Than
four
anywhere
states
in the
than
country,
anywhere
for
in the
that matter.
world. So if you then must look at it to make it functional and effective, you must have a system in place that allows those people to generate the power and distribute the power that they need. And then if you don't need in Kebbi more than 5, we will give them 5. But it takes time. You know, nation building is not rocket science and it's not magical. It's something that develops over time. You start a system, you make it work, you begin to clean up the edges, to the rough edges, until it becomes smooth. The thing is, you know, the president also said about patience, but Nigerians are not patient. 16 years we were in a rut, and then suddenly in 2 years we want the rut to be covered, and then we're moving into the projectile. Well, it doesn't work like that. If particularly the structures and the processes are not in place to work together to make us move.
Well, the real question is the foundation, that proper foundation, being laid?
I think
has it been laid at all so that whatever you build on it can actually stand? But Mr. President did say that the Mambila hydroelectric power project is taking off at last. A project that has been on the drawing board for about 40 years. I mean, that really takes the cake.
I think to add to what Dokun has said, I think the issue of prepaid meter, nobody has ever spoken about it. See, this is exactly the reason why you find the public as an unruly horse. You come to a place, you call it, what is it? Is it estimated billing?
and then you just
And we are aware that this is being used to fleece Nigerians.
absolutely.
So that's why you create rebels in the system, people sabotage the system. So these are things that you should be able to make sure it is also in place. So that all these things will work together, not a question that, oh, the policies are put in place.
In fact, we remember growing up where NEPA, as it used to be, officials will come to read the meters every month before bills are handed out.
In fact, before then, there was ECN, probably your generation.
Exactly.
That's the one I grew up to know. ECN is very efficient, unless you want to put it off. But right now, the issue of estimated billing is being used to fleece the people. Everybody knows that. They just look at your house. Probably they feel you are in, as they see you now on the screen. You should be able to pay this at the end of the month.
That's where the problem is.
Yes, so those are the things that should be there. It should be in place. They should be compared. So that the people will now feel that, yes, it is ours. Not that we want to go and sabotage the process.
Well, Mr. President has said that government is working with the discos to solve the distribution problem. All right, let's move away from the power sector. We'll see if we can still come back to it because it's quite a huge...
It's a huge one. It's huge.
Yes. Kemekwado, let me come to you. Mr. President ended his speech really with referring to the progress that is being made in the Niger Delta region. Of course, he talked about the cleanup of the Ogoni, which is in progress alongside, of course, the UN. Are you impressed with the cleanup so far? This, I think it was...
it was launched a few...
was it in June of 2016? If my memory serves me right. And of course, he did thank the governors of the Niger Delta for helping ensure peace in that region.
I'm not impressed at all because since the cleanup was launched, it's just been the talk and no work. And you see, one thing I want to appeal to the president and the presidency and all well-meaning Nigerians and those outside Nigeria to understand is that the cleanup of the Ogoni land is just a metaphor for many other cleanups we need in the Niger Delta. The whole of the Niger Delta is polluted. And I heard the president talk about agriculture in his speech. And you can't be talking about diversification into agriculture, especially in the area of the Niger Delta where it is so blessed with all agrarian facilities, without talking about the cleanup of the Ogoni land and the overall cleanup. Let me also bring this to your mind. Recently, $1 billion was dedicated to the fight of the Boko Haram menace in the north. We applaud that, no problem, you understand? But you must also understand, like you may have watched it recently, that the hazards from the environmental, the diseases, the hazards that come from environmental pollution as a result of oil exploration have killed and are killing more people in the Niger Delta. So if we think that for security reasons, as it is in the Northeast, we can dedicate about $1 billion. The Niger Delta that produces even much more than the $1 billion should have been attended to, and sincerely so. The cleanup of Ogoni land, as we have been talking about the cleanup of Ogoni land since the president came into power, just like we need the cleanup of many other areas in the Niger Delta. And not even $1 billion. Not even $2 billion, when we actually need more than $5 billion for the cleanup of that environment. And so it's not something we are excited about, but it's not something we also want to threaten about. It's something that the president needs to respond to the voice of reason to clean up the Ogoni land and clean up many other areas in the Delta. Now, it's not a fair thing, you understand, that over here in the Delta, it's only when trouble speaks that they respond to it. You know, sometimes the federal government has this posture of responding to only violence. Recently, you have recalled that when Avengers started, you understand, they started responding to it. That's so wrong. The truth is, people are dying every day in the Niger Delta. We need a whole lot of attention in the Niger Delta, much more. Let me tell you something that is sarcastic and disrespectful. Recently, we heard the federal government giving tax holidays to companies to construct even roads in Lagos. You heard it. There is nothing against that. But what we are saying is that such tax holidays should have been extended to this kind of projects and development projects that keeps the Niger Delta intact. And when you do this, the president and the presidency should not think that you are doing the Niger Delta a favor. You are actually doing Nigeria a favor. The truth is, go to countries like US. I attended a conference just about some weeks ago in the US. Yeah. Look at the US. You talk about cities like New York. There are people who live in New York that don't business themselves with California. They don't business themselves in Texas. It's because the different parts of the United States are developing simultaneously at different places. So what I'm saying in essence is that if this attention is given to the Niger Delta, starting from its cleanup to its overall infrastructure and every other thing, it has a way of developing the whole Nigeria, just like the United States develops in the form of its cities such as New York, its cities such as Houston, Texas, its cities such as Miami in Florida and other places. I can just call the places I have been to that I have seen. So what we are saying is that the president should not speak of the Niger Delta as if he's doing us a favor. I heard the president say they are engaging well-meaning Niger Deltas to still. How can you? This is so funny. I agree that the problems of the Niger Delta did not start today. It was handed over to him. But the presidency cannot say you are still engaging.
Okay.
To be done.
All right. Alfred. Alfred, thank you. We certainly have to keep you on hold there. When it comes to engagement, a lot of people, like I hear they say engagement is a continuous thing.
In fact,
but
that's what
we'll come back to this.
Yeah.
Let's go for the news update. We still have all our guests in the house right now. Dr. Dokun Adedeji. We have Alfred Kemepado joining us from Port Harcourt. We still have Kabir Shitu in Abuja, as well as Barrister Gani Fani joining us in here. So let's hand over to Ugocho Ligbo for the news update, and then we come back to dwell more on analysis and issues arising from the president's speech earlier on.
Many thanks for joining us. President Muhammadu Buhari, in a special New Year broadcast, wished Nigerians well as we celebrate the New Year. He believes the year would be pivotal in the country's quest for change. President Buhari commiserated with Nigerians who, for many reasons, including the biting fuel scarcity, could not be merry and happy in this festive season. The president also focused on issues of security, power, infrastructure, promising that there would be an all-round improvement in the fortunes of the great country in 2018.
I must reassure my fellow citizens that security of life and property is still top of our government's agenda. We have since beaten Boko Haram. Isolated attacks still occur, but even the best policed countries cannot prevent determined criminals from committing terrible acts of terror, as we have seen during the first years in Europe, Asia, Middle East, elsewhere in Africa and America. Our government remains determined to protect all Nigerians in line with our election pledge and promises.
President Bukola Saraki is also wishing Nigerians a better 2018 with a call to pray for a full recovery of the economy. His New Year message, Saraki said a strong economy will enable government to achieve physical development and improve standard of living of the people. He urged Nigerians to look back on 2017 with the knowledge that better days are ahead. And Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Modashiru Obasa, has commended Nigerians for their courage, resilience and support in 2017. He assures all that 2018 will bring in greater achievements by all tiers of government. Obasa acknowledged that the country is still facing some challenges, but that government at all levels will not relent in putting in place measures that will enhance welfare of people. And in the New Year message, the ruling All Progressives Congress urged Nigerians to collectively look to 2018 with renewed optimism and vigor. The party says that the right ethics, morality, attitude and priorities, Nigeria will get out of its challenges. The party wants Nigerians to have faith in the current administration. And as the news, back to you, Ngozi and Mike. Happy New Year to you. I mean, it's beautiful 2018. I beat Fadi to it.
Yes,
I know you and Fadi were arguing who to be the first to say Happy New Year to Nigeria.
And Ogochi,
okay.
do you know what? You're actually looking like a new year.
Thank you. I've had no meal this entire year. No single meal this year.
Thank you, Gucci. Thank you very much.
Welcome back. It's still the first edition of TVC Breakfast 2018, and we are as excited as you are. You can imagine that. Well, our guests in the studio have been analyzing Mr. President's speech. Of course, 25 or so minutes of speaking to Nigerians about different issues. Of course, it started with the issue of fuel scarcity and all. Well, our guest is Dr. Dokun Adedeji. Alfred Kemekpado is in Port Harcourt right there. Barrister Ganifani is also right here in the studio with us. And ABDA Chairman Kabiru Shitu is in our Abuja studio. All right, Kabiru Shitu, it is very obvious. The next question that I have to ask you, the issue of restructuring, Mr. President spoke to that. He said, we are looking, or he in particular is keeping a close look at the debate over restructuring. And he went further to say that whatever structure we develop must periodically be perfected. Okay, so is it looking like Mr. President might just begin to cede some ground on the issue of restructuring? Kabiru Shitu, if you heard my question.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay.
I'm hearing you.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, you see, restructuring, as Mr. President said, is a continued policies, and Nigerian cannot be left behind, because there are where we were in 1960s and 70s, and there are laws that we put in place in 70s and 60s that today are not relevant in our destiny. And we are talking of restructuring for development. There's no how you get developed a country without restructuring the system, politically, economically, and otherwise. Economically, it will help the country to restructure, as they are now putting huge amount of money in infrastructure development in the area of power, rail, and roads. We are also looking at, okay, as a country, how do you keep this investment going? How do you keep these roads intact? How do you keep the rail lines working? How do you keep the electricity generation going? You must restructure your law that guide all these aspects. You must restructure. The most important restructure is restructuring of our mind, our mindset towards public properties. We believe as a people that if it is government property, anything can happen to it. People, it can be within my village and it will be vandalized. I don't care. It is time to restructure our mind, to tell ourselves that those infrastructures are for us and we are the government. It's part of restructuring. When you are talking of restructuring politically, we cannot remain, yes, we are practicing presidential system of government, but we have to ask ourselves a question. Is this presidential system of government sustainable? Isn't it an expensive one? How do we marry it with our own situation as a people, as a country? How do we put ourselves, our political parties, in a manner that it will help the country? Why are people taking up violence politically?
Okay.
All right.
Kabir, those are very good questions. The leadership should look at. After all, the president said that they are receptive to new ideas to governance. That will come into that. Talking about restructuring, Doctor, let me come to you on this. The president also mentioned that a lot of people are even talking about going back to the parliamentary system of government we ran in the First Republic. And he said something that the problem or the challenge is the process and not the structure itself.
Look, I'm one person, I've never been enamored of this call for restructuring because I consider it a red herring. You see, one thing that I have found in this country is people bring up topical issues just to muddy the waters for particular political reasons or interest. Since the noise was so stringent at a particular time, see what happened. It just went away. And then another thing, you see, in the process of the last 5, 6, 7 years, is taking up new names and nomenclature, fiscal discipline. Look, we are not short of all kinds of gymnastics when it comes to political adroitness. But one thing the president has done is to acknowledge that there's a discussion around this. He has been politically deft in handling it. He didn't say he was going to do it or whether he's not going to do it, but he said, I have heard, we're receptive. Look, the thing is, for me, I think Nigerians should begin to look at the fact and looking what is the worth of a Nigerian? What does it mean to be a Nigerian? If we don't do that, restructure, look, who manages restructures? Who manages processes? Who manages systems? People. The thing is, as a people, what do we want as Nigerians? What are prerequisites to say, I'm a Nigerian, these are the things I'm entitled to, whether parliamentary or presidential. It does not really matter the system you run, it matters the process by which the system is run. What politicians do is just to gain prominence at a particular time and then make all kind of noise. In the times that they've been there, if you run parliamentary, who runs it? The people. You run presidential, democracy, whatever it is, the people run it. But the thing is, at any point in time, which interest is superimposing in your consideration?
That's the point.
That's the point.
Isn't that where the debate over patriotism really should start? Look, I mean, Kabiru Shitu talked about restructuring of the mindset towards everything government.
Let me give you an example. During the 6-day war in Israel, people left America to come fight for, because if you kill an Israeli, they will kill 10 of you. What does that mean to a Nigerian? People were in Libya. People died We just look at statistics. Oh, 10 Nigerians died, and that's all it means to us. What is the worth of a Nigerian life?
Barrister Fani, do you have an answer to that?
Yes, I would disagree with Dr. Dukunradas, I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Yes, there's a need to restructure. Those who are clamoring for it are persons who have virtually seen it all. Because apart from the fact that in 2014, a group of Nigerians were selected, the brightest we can talk about, they were able to identify why are we not moving forward? Why did we move forward in the First Republic? Most of us were not aware of all those until they were being highlighted. The achievements and the milestones that were achieved within the First Republic. It was recently the Emir of Kano, when he was CBN, he told the whole of us in this country, a quarter of our resources are being spent on a few persons who are politicians. For how long do we want to do that? We now say, okay, what do we do? And then the idea of restructuring came. I'm happy for the first time that the president will talk of body language. Because when he first came in,
in all of this, to put it very objectively, even if all this restructuring, the structure of the structure is
we are talking of federalism
and the people
in a multi-ethnic society like
yes,
ours.
and the people who are running that structure are still the same. Is there going to be a change?
I say we have seen an example before.
Okay.
What they are talking about is not something that never happened. Somebody told me.
True federalism.
Exactly. Fiscal federalism.
What is true federalism?
Okay, resource control.
What is resource control?
That is,
you see, the thing is about
states
semantics.
become autonomous.
There is competition.
All right.
He probably would have been a beneficiary like myself. We are probably from the southwest. And exactly what happened there. I'm happy that Mr. President referred to our sophistication in this broadcast of our accommodation. Most of the milestones our forefathers, our forebears were able to have was because of resource control. There are some industries like the one we are in. The debut in Ibadan on the 31st of October 1959 was able to come about by the preference of somebody.
Yeah, but the realities of today, because the point there is that if these were all in the First Republic until before the military came, the reality of today, will it create room for that kind of resource control?
I'm telling you the state where I come from. I always tell people.
Gani, let me just
know where I come from.
Okay.
Let me tell you.
Yes.
The idea of that state can hardly sustain the executive alone. For how long shall we be going to Abuja?
Yes. Now, let Dr. just
one minute.
Say something before I take
you
it.
See, did you listen to the president's speech? He said we'll look at governance. If we check governance and the expenses that they engender, all this thing we're talking about. I read what
according to him, there's a strong case for a closer look at
cost of governance. You see, the thing is, we say we want to restructure. The Southwest says they will stand. The states will still stand. So what is the essence of it? Look at when we stand, state will stand, and there's a central Southwest to a national. It's just a diversification of governance.
All right, let's take it
to look at all these things.
Okay. Alfred, I'm sure the issue of restructuring is of great interest to you. But really, come to think of it, what manner of restructuring are we talking about? Is it a restructuring that will happen by default, that will be organic in nature? Or is it really realistic to expect that any government can wake up one morning and say, okay, now I want to restructure Nigeria?
Basically, let me align myself a bit with the other guest on white and disagree strongly with Dr. Dokun.
Okay.
Let me say this. You can't talk about your journey without talking about the vehicle in which you want to transmit yourself in that journey. Nigeria has problems, and you cannot shy away from the structure in which the problems have emanated. Let me give you a practical example. The president talked about 7,000 megawatts in the power, and it's gone up and blah and this and that. Good one. I can also experience it in my own. But you see, you need to begin to ask yourself questions like, what is power still doing in the exclusive list? Why is it that one of the states in the Niger Delta, such as Bayelsa, that has so much gas deposits, cannot take advantage of our gas deposits, generate enough power for ourselves, transmit it around our state, and even sell it to countries such as Gabon, or even some countries in Central Africa, and even other states in Nigeria. You see, you can't talk about Nigeria without talking about its structure. And when we say restructuring, restructuring means different things to different people. But when we say restructuring, we are only talking about bringing the entire Nigerian conversation back to the desk. You may agree with me that we operate a 1999 constitution, which is only paraphrased, which is nothing but a military document that was handed over to us and called a constitution, and you're not talking about it. For me, I am not proud of the fact that the president ran away from the issue of restructuring, because this country, like I had earlier stated, needs to review its structure and develop from its particular, according to its comparative advantage, which is what we are not doing. We need to look at that document. What I had expected the president and the presidency to do is to see how they can muzzle the presidential will and the political will behind the National Assembly to begin to review the unity of this country. That is where people say, yes, the unity of Nigeria cannot be negotiated, but how we live in this united Nigeria must be negotiated. Because even in our homes, ask Dr. Doku and others, every day, even in the homes where we are married to wives and children, we negotiate the living. We even negotiate the furniture. How dare you now say you cannot begin to review the structure of Nigeria to see what suits? Look at Britain. Britain was in the EU, was in the EU, and now it has just Brexited. And that's restructuring.
But that Brexiting may cost, or it's costing, Britain. It's at some cost. So the point is Nigeria really ready to pay whatever price, whatever it takes to achieve restructuring without losing what it means to be Nigeria? Let's bring in Kabiru.
Now, let me now.
Okay.
Let's move forward.
Yes.
Alfred, we'll come back to you on this because we need to go around so everyone can have a piece of. Now, Kabiru Shittu, let me come to you on this. The president, in his speech earlier, commended the Southwest region or Southwest states. He talked about the ability to internalize religion, ethnicity, and politics in a mix that moves them forward very easily. Now, it is something you have mentioned in some of your interviews, the issue of ethnicity, the issue of the place of religion, and all of that. Now, what do other regions or geopolitical zones in the country, how can they also meet that feat of internalizing religion, internalizing ethnicity, and internalizing politics where there is no conflict necessarily?
All right, it seems.
For us,
Okay.
We believe that before I go further, there's one thing that has been settled at the law, and that is the indivisibility of the country. That cannot be taken away. Nobody can divide Nigeria. That is settled. When you are talking of the Southwest have become example to Nigerians, economically, politically, and socially. Today, you can see Lagos, what they are generating. They are on their own today. If you tell Lagos to go on their own, they are there. They are developed economically and politically. They've had successor. I think we commend Chief Bola Tinubu for this. He left that office, and his successors have been continuing with his project. That is to tell you, politically, it have been settled. And socially, when you talk of religion, when you talk, you see Bola Ahmed Tinubu as a Muslim going to church. You see people marrying Christian, Muslim, marrying Christian. You see pagans marrying Muslim. So they don't even bother about that. That means socially, that have been settled. And so also we would like to see other geopolitical zones of the country. the North has also come to terms with that. In the North today, you have a lot of generals that their wives are Christian from the South and they are Muslim. So socially, the North have settled that. Politically too, I believe the North is just some little segment that when you talk of religion, they use religion to get sympathy from the Southern leaders. And that is going to be settled. But what we should note as a people is that did religion bring food to your table? The answer is no. Did your ethnicity give you whatever you want in life? You cannot get to the greater height in your life without mixing with other ethnicity, other people, and other race. So if you are ethnicity by God, you get nowhere. You have a mindset that will not help you. But when you are talking of the restructuring the country, putting the country in one indivisibility, as we have all agreed, we must also now, that is why restructuring is important.
Okay.
There are certain, when they are talking of road in the distance today, they are talking of geopolitical zone. I'm sad when I read it to say we have each road, 6 will be constructed in each geopolitical zone. I think we must go above that.
All right,
we should now start
He actually talked about 44
yes,
roads to be constructed, and about 16.6 billion naira has been allocated to each geopolitical zone.
The gentlemen in the studio are itching to respond to that. But let's not overflog it because we still have the economy and security to talk about.
Yes, you see, it needs to be said that the passion with which we talk of non-negotiability of this country should also extend to the progress of the country. It shouldn't be at the expense of the progress of the country. Nigeria is already 57 years. We are lagging behind. The countries that went to independence with, they're already ahead of us. We have to look at, and that's why we are talking of these political issues. Now, talk of the Southwest. I was glad when I heard the president, not just because I'm from the Southwest. This is the result of the conscious effort of the founding fathers. The Southwesterners are like the other geopolitical zones. There's no difference between us. The founding fathers knew that education was important as the bedrock. When you have education, other things will fall in. In some other places, they still go ahead misleading people about things that are against education. So these are the issues that we have to really address.
Okay, so Dokun, lack of education at the root of all of this that we see?
A bit of it. Okay. A bit of it, but in a sense for me, the world itself is a stage for evolution. It can be positive, it can be negative. You see, we have evolved in this country. Let me give you an example. I went to Christ School, it's a Christian school. All manners of Nigerians were there and all persuasions of religion. But when I was in school, I never asked my friend where he came from or what religion he practiced because it didn't matter to me. When did it begin to matter? When politicians came, because it was a clear view, whether education or not. Who are the people shouting about religion? Educated people. So you see, you can use a weapon to destroy a foundation because it suits you.
Is it time for us to begin to actually consider expunging state of origin?
No.
State of origin.
Let me tell you something.
Federal character.
No, it's not federal character. Let me tell you, during the
character
electionary process, at the interface we had with, I raised something which are just low-hanging fruits. I want to get the driver's license. Why do you need my religion? Why do you need my local government? Why do you need, look, we need to look at basic things. If we don't go into the basic and we don't religion, we need to take those things away. Why does the government need to sponsor me to Rome? If I want to go to Rome to meet the Vatican, to meet the Pope, it is my responsibility. If the government itself does not diffuse its responsibility in that direction, people will be clamoring for it. The thing is, if you want to travel to Mecca, by all means you can. Why should the government be involved? Why should the government sponsor anyone to go?
All right.
Now let me tell you, why is it necessary, for instance? You have cutoff that is different from one region to the other. These are fundamental issues.
No, sir.
Why must I go and represent
you see,
my
let me
own
tell you,
geopolitical
sir,
zone?
even in the development of America, at certain stages in life, there are certain considerations for certain people.
Why?
The only thing sir, in America it happened, affirmation. the thing that we must know is that there are stages where there is an evolution. When that has been satisfied, you walk away from it. Well, we have not been able to walk away.
In other words, policies should reflect
Absolutely.
our peculiar
realities.
That issue has to be
let's,
resolved.
let's move to the economy.
No, before we even move on,
Okay.
you mentioned federal character, because when she said, is it time to expunge the issue of state of origin and all of that, you mentioned federal character.
Yes.
In Rwanda, for instance, due to their experience, genocide experience,
It's a crime.
in their national ID card, you no longer see the Hutu or nobody wants to know where you come from.
Yes.
However, when it comes to the issue of federal character,
Yes.
there was a reason why that was put in our structure, as the case may be, to give a sense of belonging to everyone, especially the minority states and people and languages and all of that.
Yes.
If you expunge that, wouldn't there be crisis?
There won't be crisis. It has been abused. You see, you are talking of these policies on paper. We have seen it in practice, in which case you now bring somebody from a geopolitical zone that is not as competent. The idea of those who propounded the issue of federal character was not to lower standard. Get that in mind.
It was to give a sense of
to
belonging.
get the best from
The
everywhere.
best from that place, not the other way around.
Yeah.
That to the extent that these other persons will now be disillusioned. You now discover that the person you are competing with, or probably could be your boss, is someone that probably is not as competent.
You see,
So these are the issues we
So
have to look at.
unfortunately, federal character has become a problem.
It is being
instead of a
misused and
solution.
being misapplied. I'm talking of the affirmation.
look,
We are
you
still
said,
talking.
who misuses it?
The affirmation we are
It's
talking
the
about.
people.
With the people.
What
It's
is
the
the,
people.
what,
You
what,
see,
what
these
would have
things.
led to an affirmation in
look,
Nigeria?
is it their policies guiding?
All right, let's take this debate to
Okay.
our guests in Port Harcourt. Kemekpabo is there. Let's talk about the economy. We really cannot do without talking about this. President Buhari said government is slowly stabilizing the economy. He's accepted the fact that it's a slow process. But even more interesting is that the business or the days of doing business as usual are numbered. Number one, discipline and direction in economic management is very, very important. And how excited are you, Kemekpado, when the president talks about the agri sector? In fact, he says rice imports will stop this year, 2018.
It's a welcome development because as a country, one of the first things we need to do is to feed ourselves because of the amount of capital flight experience in trying to import many other foodstuffs from other countries, quality that we are not sure of these foodstuffs. So for me, I'm excited. And that also reconciles with his transportation, the mentions he made about the construction of a more potent transportation system, which will also enhance the distribution of this material. So for me, it's okay, but my main concern is what I had stated before. So we must also give all regions equal opportunity to grow well. You know, here in the Niger Delta, you can't be talking about diversification into the agri sector without talking about cleaning the various polluted environments in the Delta. So we also want to say, as much as we are excited, we are also sad that we may not be taking full advantage of our potentials. Because the truth is, if we must diversify and walk away from the present oil-dependent economy, we must begin to look at the agrarian economy which the Niger Delta is endowed with. So our excitement is just cut short by these factors.
The pollution. Okay, let me come to you, Kabir Shitu, staying with you on this agriculture. Now, there's so much excitement about the rice production and all of that. We know that the Lagos State really did well when in fact, it was all over the place when they came up with the Lake Rice in collaboration with Kebbi State. Yeah. We also hear Ogun State is coming up with theirs as well, upstream.
The pyramids are already appearing in Ogun State.
Abakaliki is also taking cue. Edo State is also in the pipeline. Benue State is also in the pipeline. And all of these states are coming up. But there is one twist to the rice story. We also got reports that a lot of smuggling outside the country, rice taken from Nigeria into neighboring countries, is also going on. So, if we are trying to be self-sufficient, and a lot of businessmen or marketers are taking that sufficiency out of the country, what kind of situation are we really creating when it comes to rice sufficiency and food sufficiency in the country like the government is putting in?
For us, I think we are not disciplined as people. And the government too are not helping matter. Federal Ministry of Agric, I think must be looked into, because they just tell you these are policies they will just announce, but they don't go and work on it. When you are talking of this rice, you brought in anchor borrowers. This anchor borrower program is not getting to any farmers. As I'm sitting with you here, I'm a farmer, and I'm the president of cowpea and beans farmers, processors, and exporters. Throughout this year, I know how many times we have approached Agric Ministry. Central Bank of Nigeria have written several letters to them. How do you promote the beans when you don't even care about how that the growers are being fed? They told the world that they have given monies to people. They have given, there's a lot of policies. They only give this money to the to certain individuals, and the real farmers are there wambling, and nothing is getting back to them. I think those are why people want to now maximize their profit, and they have to take this product out. I want to give you the issue of wheat. They ask farmers to grow wheat. They grow wheat. Now they start talking of price. They are talking of importing at rate of 7,000 to 8,000, and that the Nigerian wheat is 8,000 and 14,000. They abandon them, and they are there now crying. So, and you are telling the world that you have anchor borrower, you have helped the wheat farmers. Where have you helped them? When you are talking now, the flour companies are saying it's better to import. In other economies that have grown agriculturally, government subsidize. For the meantime, government will subsidize. If government is not going to subsidize, government will buy off this product and then warehouse them, and now and sell back to those that need it. And government should by now start bringing in processing plant that will, instead of them growing our wheat, or we grow beans, and we don't have processing plant. You have to now it make our own product to be more costlier than imported product, and that is why you see today there are more products that are imported, like rice being imported to Nigeria, and the rice that we are making here, we are growing here in Nigeria, are being exported to other Niger or other countries because it's more expensive. They want to maximize profit, as I've earlier said.
All right,
okay. So therefore, but of course, Ministry of Agric must be revamped.
Okay.
Indeed, the Anchor Borrowers Program is one of the successes, according to the CBN, that has been touting. But of course, according to Kabiru Shitu there, it's not achieving its main aim. But we'll still talk about Agric. I'm sure you guys are, itching to talk about that.
Exactly.
But, the president said that, sustainable policies are already in place to drive the economic recovery growth plan. I wonder what you have to say to that while you talk about the Agric successes or failures.
The aspect I want to talk about in respect of the Agric is that we are now talking of Lagos and Kebbi State. We are talking of Ogun State and probably some other states.
Yes.
I am wondering what the business of the Federal Ministry of Agric is. See, when we are talking of restructuring, we are talking of a situation whereby our resources are maximized. The states and the regions are in a better position to do all these things. So, and we are seeing the result. All they need is the willpower and the support.
Doesn't that in itself speak to the fact that restructuring is already happening?
Look,
Then
Is
it's
it
not a
already
question of
happening?
the mind.
Let's not dwell too much on that.
you see, now
because
you
it
come
is
from the
foundational.
of the mind. You see, let me tell you something. All these things we're talking about is about the dynamics of the human person. If you look at it, look at the hand. The thumb is here, you think is opposite. But you can't hold anything, you can't write without the thumb.
Without it.
You see, until we get to a position in this country to understand the weaknesses and strength of one another and do a SWOT analysis, and then get people in their strength to do what they can do best, we will not move as a nation. That's why I believe all this restructuring debate is noise. The thing is, cocoa grew in the Southwest. We made cocoa and it was the major thing. Rubber in Midwest. Why can't we go back to those things? We were in this country when the Midwest was producing swimmers for Nigeria, Afuze, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Where are those things? They died because people, you see, people began to look at the benefits that come today. Until Nigeria begins to look at long term, we will not move out of this morass. What we want is immediate gain. That's why in Nigeria, a lot of people are selling diesel. They're selling petrol because of the immediate gains. What about the farm? Until we go back to those things and do that. Look, we can sit down and talk about government. The gentleman in Abuja said government should provide processing plants. Where are the rich people in Nigeria? What do they contribute?
The private sector.
The private sector.
Yes.
Why is it that somebody is not thinking about, you see, there's a supply chain in all these things. Somebody produces, and then he produces tomato in the north, but he can't process it, he can't keep it.
Yeah, but there are private sector practitioners who will say the banks, for example, are the
Absolutely.
ones frustrating
No,
their
you see,
efforts.
if you talk about Nigerian
they
banks,
want loans,
they're
but
just
the banks are
middlemen
not
of
ready
corruption.
to. Oh,
Banks
okay.
in Nigeria are middlemen of corruption. They used to easy money, come to federal government, put your money there, they get interest, and then they use the money in the process. Until we also relook at our banking system. What is the banking support? Look at the anchor process you said. When Central Bank took it over, you can see the success. But how many of the banks themselves can borrow, can lend money to anyone? They don't lend money to businesses, to medium. No country, grows with big business. Is cottage industries, middle scale, and then that is where you grow a system, and then they employ more people.
They make up 95% of the
Absolutely.
economy. Yeah.
Until we look at those things, the dynamics of governance. If we don't look at them, we can just be talking in esoteric terms, and that is noise. The thing is, what are the ingredients of growth?
All right, let's talk about security now.
Yeah.
The president mentioned, he said we have beaten Boko Haram, which is a statement of fact to a great extent, depending on how you want to see it. It's relative to some other people. But however, he also said that the one other area he touched is kidnapping. And he said that the laws are being put in place to ensure that kidnapping is strictly, and those who are involved are punished and all of that. We know that a lot of states came up with death penalty and so on. Yeah. Whether that has deterred those who are kidnapping enough, we don't know yet.
The security and welfare of the people, that is the business of government. Essentially, all this thing we have been discussing all along, if there's no security, it won't work. And the welfare of the people must be part of it. Once the people are stakeholders, the issues are resolved. The problem with Nigeria is that most persons are not, majority of the population, they are not stakeholders. So as much as possible, they don't care because they have nothing to lose. So the government must be conscious of the fact that majority of Nigerians are empowered and made stakeholders.
Yeah. Do you have issues with the three major areas of security challenge in Nigeria that one would say the most prominent would be the issue of Boko Haram, would be the issue of kidnapping, and then the herdsmen.
Of course.
He mentioned kidnapping, he mentioned Boko Haram, he didn't mention herdsmen.
Exactly. This is part, maybe that is very unfortunate, and it's a great omission. Because where I come from, Dokun happens to come from his school in Christ School, Ekiti. That unofficially, that's the University of Ekiti, so to speak. That's the school we all know, even when I don't even attend the place. Ekiti is an agrarian area. That is the mainstay of everybody until recently. So, and suddenly now you find that nobody can go to the farm and be assured that what you have planted there, you will meet it there. Not that alone, you are not sure whether if you go, you will come back alive. So virtually everybody is afraid. And that's what led to this anti-grazing that we first had in the place.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the government needs to be, particularly, this is where I want the federal government, because they have the architecture of the security in their hands. Mention the police, the army, it is the federal government. The federal government must be interested in the issue of security and containment of the herdsmen. It's all over the place, which is very unfortunate, and it is discouraging people from going into a Greek.
Yes.
Kidnapping.
With due respect.
Yes.
Please, kidnapping,
Yes.
for instance. I saw something curious recently.
Okay.
I saw a cartoon. A boy went to his father and said, which course can I offer in the university to make me a kidnapper?
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Yes, it was in the form.
You see, with due
So
respect.
why don't we ask, why are all this? Why are the youths interested in criminality?
You see,
Yeah.
Okay, let's take this debate to...
Yes, let's just allow
You see,
Dokun to respond and
yes.
then we
with
leave.
due respect, I think
Yes.
the Fulani herdsmen noise is a political instrument of hate and fear.
On whose part?
The Nigerian system, just
Herdsmen, not necessarily Fulani, because a lot of people say
no,
they
see,
are not.
you
So
see,
let's use
let's say
herdsmen.
herdsmen. You see, herdsmen, true. Some of them, you see them graze and eat people's. Yes, we can deal with that. But you know, when people begin to infuse into it a particular tribal area, and there's, in my growing up, even today as we go, how many herdsmen have you seen with guns? The ones who use guns cannot be herdsmen. They are criminals. Let them be dealt with as criminals. Let us not infuse something that brings divisiveness into it, and then you say, oh, it's this area. If you catch, look, what I want in this country is deterrence. And one thing you said, I don't believe in death penalty, maybe because I'm a medical doctor. Nobody should be able to take life for an offense. People have been killed even in America only to find out they did not commit the offense.
Yeah.
So you see, this is something that you cannot. The thing to do in a society is to create a value system that makes our people understand the dint of working hard.
All right, Alfred Kemekwado, I'm sure you want to weigh in on this, but let me ask you a direct question. What exactly does security mean to you? What's your definition of it in such a way that it's reflected in the discussion we're having?
Basically, the federal government, historically, or should I say empirically, has not been critical when it comes to security issues. By that I mean, you see, there are indicators that cause flashpoints and cause insecurity in a society, one of which is poverty, injustice, underdevelopment, and other things. Now, what the federal government does is when there is insecurity, like it is full-blown in the issues of the Boko Haram or the kidnappings that you may say about the Niger Delta, they swing into action with massive budgets. But what they should do, and what I'm expecting from the presidency and whoever is president at any point in time, is to invest in those things that secures a country, that will not lead to those things that will breed insecurity. For example, here in the Niger Delta, we have talked about the several injustices meted out to us by the IOCs and members of a cabal, the underdevelopment in the Niger Delta. Let me not particularize that just to the Niger Delta. Look at recently, $1 billion has been given to the Northeast for security and other things. You begin to ask,
although it hasn't been released.
Hold on, just hold on a bit. Now, you begin to ask questions. What is the cause of insecurity? Part of the cause of insecurity, even in the Northeast, is a lack of education. So you now begin to ask, how much has been invested into the education of the people of that region? Not close to the $1 billion. So this is, whatever happens in the Niger Delta also happens in many other places. So what the federal government should do should be critical. The federal government should be critical about security issues, not when they blow out of proportion. They should begin to invest in those things that will not breed insecurity, develop the region, cause massive education, create the infrastructure that will create jobs, respect people, ensure that the justice system is not selective as we can perceive now. Let me tell you, security is not all about deploying the army or deploying the military to go and shoot guns and buying the most of sophisticated equipment to terrorize your own people by coming in different operations, operation this and operation that. That's a shame. Just about 3 to 4 years ago, the police in Norway, the Norwegian police celebrated that they fired only one gunshot. And that's one of the most secured societies in the world. So what is the federal government doing in that state to ensure that we begin to get security from a peaceful point of view by ensuring that those things that breed insecurity are curbed? And another thing the federal government must also do, the federal government must also curb the trade of security. You must know in this country that insecurity is commerce for some people. I don't want to pinpoint any security agencies, but over here in the Niger Delta, whenever there is insecurity, some top security agents and agencies are always smiling to the bank. So as far as they are concerned, insecurity must continue in Niger Delta or in the Northeast or in other places so that they can go home with security votes that are far budget that they are not that they don't account for. So all of these things must be interrogated, because you see, at the end of the day,
Kemekwado, let's quickly put you on hold. Is it time for us to take that short break, or should we just take it to Kabiru Shitu?
Let's take you through Kabiru.
Let's take it to Kabiru Shitu. All right, now we have discussed so many things: the economy, infrastructure, and the rest of it. Education is one word that really did not come up in Mr. President's speech. Is it, the president actually saying, okay, we really did not achieve much in the area of education, and still did not give a direction as to where education will go going forward? So speak to the issue of security and how an educated populace will actually be a good way of solving this security problems.
You see, in a country when you are talking of security, food and education are major part of the security of people. When we push people, we have killed our vocational centers. And it is these vocational centers that bring up technical knowledge into the development of the country. We must now look at our technical colleges and revamp them and put them in a way, because without this technical knowledge, and then even if you have this technical knowledge, where are they going to work? If you don't generate employment after education, you get nowhere. You put people, they go to universities, they go to have their master, when they come back, are they going to sit back in the house? Where would they use those? And that is why we are saying government must drive economy. And how does government drive economy? Is by providing enabling environment. How do we provide enabling environment where the banks rate are high? It's for government to take front row by bringing in this processing equipment. When our boys go through vocational technical schools, they have where to work. And that is why you see, even the middle class is eroding, because people now, either they want to have billions of naira, they don't care about even working again, because after school, what do? Therefore, our educational infrastructures must now be developed. Our university infrastructure are becoming dilapidated. We must put all this into. And then another side that we don't look at is research institute. Where our research institute? Why must we always copy from the Western world or from Arab country before we can grow anything in Nigeria?
All right, Kabiru, let's put you on hold briefly. We will be going on break now, just briefly before we come back to round off our discussion this morning. Stay with us on TVC Breakfast. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for staying with us. We have just a few minutes to round off the program right now. We still have Dr. Dokun Adedeji with us in the studio here. We also have Barrister Gani Fani with us right here. We have Alfred Kemepado with us in Port Harcourt and Kabiru Shitu in Abuja, joining on this discussion. We've been analyzing the speech by the President Muhammadu Buhari addressed the nation at just about an hour ago. Now, let me start with you, Kemepado, let me give you the last question here. The President said the government is receptive to new ideas on governance. I want to take you on the issue of the way government engages Nigerians, the way government communicates with Nigerians as to, we tell you, we inform you on what we're doing and we want to get feedback and all of that. What do you think should change, or how do you, what's your take on this?
That's a brilliant one, because I'd always seen the presidents and the presidency as suffer from what I call political mutation. By that I mean, I'd always perceived the president to be gagged, like information, proper information as it concerns the populace does not get to him. So for him to come up to say he's now receptive and he's also open to new ideas, it's a fantastic one. Okay. And I think he should put on the body language that is receptive to such ideas. However,
let's leave it. Kemepado will have to leave it there. Let's quickly go to Kabir Shitu. We'll have to take his last word this morning. 2018, what do you want to see in place as briefly as possible, in 1 minute or less?
I want to see, what I want to see in place is that Nigerians stop importing fuel into Nigeria. And I want to see us refining our own product so as to build up modular refineries that will employ Nigerians. Employment generation is what I look forward into in 2018, where every Nigerian has where to work and earn his living, so that we stop the exodus of moving our young people into abroad.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Gani?
Well, Gani, let me, what's your projection for 2018, considering the budgets and all of that?
My projection is to see Nigeria moving towards de-emphasizing political office holding, because that is part of the problem we are having. From 2018, because we are approaching 2019, structures must start to be put in place that politics is not a venture any longer, an attractive venture, to the extent that the younger ones will no longer be interested in anything that is productive. And I want the body language of the president to be telling us that before the elections, probably with the National Assembly, to start to devolve power, as we are saying. We are going back to the basics.
Okay.
This country has to be restructured for
Right.
progress.
Okay. We'll go back to restructuring.
Right. For me, in 2018 and subsequently, I think there should be more of citizen engagement in the way we deal with it. All the issues we've discussed this morning has to do with the people. I mean, in England, for instance, you see a woman who sits in the room in the corner. She's watching this. The moment something happens, she calls the police. And then the person is apprehended. It's not magical. Here we really don't care. We know kidnappers, they live close to us. We know the people who steal our money, that people come to parties to spray the money.
In other words, gentlemen, you want to see a more patriotic Nigerians
people getting involved.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Dokun Adedeji. Thank you for coming on the program this morning.
My pleasure.
Barrister Gani Fani, also thank you for coming.
It's a privilege being here.
All right. And from Port Harcourt, Secretary General, Ijaw Youth Council Worldwide, Alfred Kemepado, thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And the Chairman, Advanced People's Democratic Alliance, ABDA, Kabir Shitu from Abuja. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
Thank you so much.
And we look forward to a greater new year as we move forward.
Yes, indeed. Do we have enough time to look at the papers very quickly? Let's take the punch. Nigeria's problems more to do with process than structure, says Buhari. Of course, his words this morning in his national broadcast.
And this day newspaper is reporting in New Year message, Buhari unfolds agenda for infrastructure rollout. Get a detail of all of those. And
blackmailers, according to President Buhari, will be dealt with if they are discovered. Fuel crisis blackmailers will be punished, says Buhari. And that's coming from the Nation newspaper.
Yeah, and then the Sun, Daily Sun is reporting President's New Year broadcast, Buhari rejects restructuring, says Nigeria's problem more of process than structure, warns against ethnic religious sentiment during 2019 political campaign, and federal government sets targets for railway projects. Rice importation ends in 2018.
Yes, indeed. And the Vanguard now, this really must be exciting to read. Vanguard 2017 Personality of the Year. Who takes it? Aisha Buhari, the wife of the president who spoke out. Of course, I don't need to remind you what she spoke out about. That's from the Vanguard, and that's
all right.
Look at the papers.
Well, this is where we come to the end of today's edition of the program. It's the first edition of 2018 and the New Year's edition. Thank you very much for spending your morning with us. Tomorrow we'll be back again with other issues. Have a great year ahead and have a great day ahead. I am Mike Okwoche.
And I am Ngozi Alebu. Enjoy the rest of the holiday. Some people have been asking me, is there a holiday tomorrow? I don't know.
No, there's no holiday tomorrow. It's just today.
Bye.
Bye for now.